So maybe a first question would be, give us a state of just your tribe. Madison has just been designated in December, Truax Field, as the home of F-35A. Doctor, can you start? Give us an overview. Missy Hughes just finished her first year as CEO of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and what a year it was. But since one of the elements of news is timeliness, this week she just wrote Foxconn telling that giant telecom they didn't qualify for any tax credits in calendar year 2019. So, Missy, it's a great time for a newsmaker. Welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Oh, it's so good to be here, Steve. I was so nervous a year ago when we did this. Well, I might be a little nervous today, but definitely I was really nervous last year.
You're a lot less nervous now. Let's open with Foxconn. Your letter on Monday said the original 2017 contract between then Governor Walker, and that was approved by GOP legislators, said that they would build Generation 10.5. That's what they would manufacture. But they didn't, they changed that, right? The heart of it is they didn't live up to the original contract because they changed what they planned to make, and they missed hiring and investment targets, correct? Do I have that right?
Yeah, it's the foundation of the contract between WEDC and Foxconn was the construction of a Gen 10.5 facility, this massive facility that was going to make these huge LCD screens and bring an incredible ripple effect to the Wisconsin supply chain and hire 13,000 employees. So when they're not building that Gen 10.5 facility, the foundation of the contract essentially is no longer there.
Right. And the contract said if they hired the 13,000 and they hit all their benchmarks, they could get up to $10 billion in tax credits, correct?
No, 2.85. It was a $10 billion facility, and we were going to provide $2.85 billion in tax incentives.
Okay, and I really want to thank you for the correction. If they invested $10 billion, they would get 2.85.
That's right.
Thank you for the correction. My question is, in hindsight, you weren't part of this deal. In 2017, you were doing something else professionally. Was this a bad deal for Wisconsin and its taxpayers, this original deal?
You know, I think that if it had come to its fruition, if this massive facility had been built and we had, this manufacturing that would ripple through the rest of Wisconsin, it might have made sense for the state to invest $2.85, almost $3 billion in this. But because plans change, markets evolve, it's understandable that it didn't work out. The contract is a good contract. We've often talked about how it's a pay-as-you-go contract. And so the state has not paid any amount in tax credits at this point. Now, we've invested a lot in infrastructure, but we haven't paid tax credits. And so, it works out. That's why you have a good contract.
Well, you said in your October 12 letter, Monday's letter, markets, opportunities, and business plans need to change. So you seem to be saying, I understand that Foxconn made some other marketing decisions, and they're not going to make these giant Generation 10.5, which I heard one Foxconn executive talk about 2 twin beds together, these giant things. But here's my question. You also say there is a path open to win-win. There could be different type of incentive contracts developed. But your letter says you've been in talks with the company since, I believe, June, and nothing has come of it. Why has nothing come of it?
Well, you covered a lot in that. First of all,
I did, and I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But what I was really saying is, listen, in all my conversations with Foxconn since I've been in this role, they've said to me, Missy, our plans have changed. The market has evolved. Factories were built in China, and now it's really hard to be competitive with these LCD screens. Okay, no problem. I come from the business sector, and so I understand that. So what we did in working with Foxconn is said, let's recalibrate the contract. Let's realign the contract so it's with whatever project you're going to be working on. And we looked at a lot of different, innovative ways to think about incentive contracts. I don't want to be hemmed in by, this is the way you have to do it. I was really trying to avoid being a state bureaucracy. I wanted to find something that would work with Foxconn's flexible and dynamic plans. Often the state isn't very flexible and dynamic, right? But I want it to be. We had conversations. We've worked together. We've talked so much in the last year, and we just weren't able to, nail down what their project looks like and how Wisconsin can incentivize it.
Well, in this back and forth since June, do you think the Foxconn reps were negotiating in good faith, Missy?
Oh, I do. We've had good conversations. We've had productive conversations. At the end of the day, Steve, it's just that, we know they're not building a Gen 10.5. And so because that's a foundation of the contract, because it, carries obligations forward, we just finally had to say, okay, I'm going to put down on paper what we all know, what we've all talked about for 18 months or so, which is that the contract is based on a Gen 10.5, and therefore you're not eligible for tax credits.
Well, if they renegotiate, if it were up to you to renegotiate with Foxconn a new contract, would you consider offering them again $2.85 billion, or do you just think that is too large a number for Foxconn or any other firm you are dealing with?
Well, my responsibility when I have conversations with companies about these incentives, when we're trying to attract a company to come to Wisconsin, or we've got a good Wisconsin company that wants to do an expansion, is to think about the taxpayer's return on investment. And, without this massive project, $2.85 billion is not going to return to the taxpayers that investment. And so we calibrate our incentives and the work that we do with other companies. We've got, Haribo is coming in and building a big factory for gummy bears. We calibrate what the return on investment is, and we've got formulas for that. And so that's what, we would do with Foxconn. And that's what we've talked about with Foxconn. We've made sure that Foxconn understands, look, we have a responsibility to the Wisconsin taxpayers.
Well, when you referred to there was a path open to win-win in your Monday letter, does that mean you would expect any revised incentive contract to total much less than $2.85 billion?
What I say when I say that is, I think that there is a way for the state to support what Foxconn is doing. I think that Foxconn has an incredible vision for advanced manufacturing into the future. I think they can help a lot of Wisconsin companies move into that future, whether it's through AI or using 5G networks within their factories. Like, they have amazing ideas. And so I want to support that work. And I think Foxconn wants to work with the state to do that. We just have to find that path.
I want to ask you about two things that happened since the November 2017 contract was signed. First of all, there was a kind of a change in leadership. Terry Goh stepped aside. He ran to be the president of his nation. He's no longer running. So did a change in leadership occur in Foxconn's vision for the Mount Pleasant plant? That's my first question. Go ahead, please.
It's my understanding that Terry Goh has deep connections to Wisconsin. And so I think, if he wanted to land in the United States, he wanted to land in Wisconsin. And so that's one of the reasons I'm very encouraged about Foxconn being here. I think that the change in leadership, both from the administration side and from the Foxconn side, have, made us need to keep working on the relationship and keep in communication. I've done a lot of work to do that. The governor did that before my time, and Joel Brennan did that before my time. So we have to just keep adjusting and making sure that we're keeping communications open.
So do you believe Terry Goh, the founder of Foxconn, is still as excited about the potential for the first North America plant in Mount Pleasant as he was in 2017?
I think if I were him, and I haven't met him, so I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I'm just going to say, if I were him, I would be incredibly excited to have this location in the heartland of the United States after the pandemic, where we're going to see reshoring of manufacturing. We're going to see people wanting to mitigate their risks and be able to locate manufacturing here in the United States. He has a prime opportunity. Foxconn has a prime opportunity. And that's why I want to help support them. I mean, it's an amazing location.
And then my second part of this is, what role did the pandemic play in Foxconn changing its vision for the Mount Pleasant plant? Please.
Well, I think that, like everyone, the pandemic has put everybody a little bit back on their heels and, trying to adjust. And Foxconn has done things like work with Medtronic to start manufacturing ventilators. They were right there back in February and March talking about masks with us. They've been manufacturing PPE. So, I think it's a testament to their flexibility that they've jumped in and are doing, several things associated with the pandemic. And, I think as everybody, where you can't travel, you can't meet in person, it has, made some conversations a little bit harder just to, keep continuity with.
Your letter referred to a tour that you took of the Mount Pleasant facility about 2 weeks ago, 2+ weeks ago. What was your impression? What's being made there now? And what are they telling you will be made by the end of the year?
Well, I was able to tour one of the buildings, and in that building, I saw what I would say is a demonstration of building motherboards and then putting those into servers. And, so they're building these towers of servers, and they expressed to me that they anticipated to have multiple of those lines of motherboard creation, manufacturing. And so I was able to see that. I didn't see what's happening with the 1 million square foot building. They were just about to put the dome on top of the big globe that they've built. So, the enthusiasm that I receive and feel when I meet with Foxconn is really infectious. They're excited about what they're doing. They're happy to be here. They want to work together. We have good conversations.
And well, a follow-up, are they as excited about working with the Tony Evers administration as they were the Scott Walker era?
Oh, I wasn't here for the Scott Walker administration. And, I think that I think working with government, working with the U.S. government from a foreign country, nobody really wants to work with the government. And, I think they see the potential. I think there's some, well, we can get this done, back home. Why can't we get this done here? So there's some cultural differences. There's some work to be done there. I think they expect us to be more flexible, and we have, a commitment to the Wisconsin taxpayers that we always have to be thinking about.
Their statement, the Foxconn statement, said they were disappointed and that this wouldn't help negotiations in terms of any new incentive contract. Do they have any options to appeal? I suppose they could sue, but do they have any options to appeal the determinations that they didn't qualify for the tax credits?
They can, we have, because we're a quasi public-private organization, we have the ability to contract with them and to do more work with them so we can keep talking. And I hope that this actually creates an opportunity for us to keep talking, because it kind of puts that whole Gen 10.5 conversation aside. And now we can say, okay, what can we really do together? The disappointment, I understand. Nobody likes to hear no. Even if it's expected. But I think that, once we get past that, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to continue to have conversations.
Have you had any contact with Foxconn executives since you wrote Monday's letter?
Not this week, no.
Not this week.
No.
Okay. You toured one building. You didn't tour the 1 million square feet facility. What do they tell you will be assembled in the 1 million square feet facility?
It seemed to me that they indicated that that's where the other lines of the server production would go. But honestly, as I say, when you go in and you tour this facility, there's a lot going on. I was talking with employees and all of that. So, I didn't focus 100% on what they were saying is coming. And, it's trying to focus on what you're hearing right in that moment.
Okay. But you left that tour still you still believing that Foxconn is negotiating in good faith and wants to become a part of the anchor of Southeast Wisconsin's economy, correct?
I do believe that, yeah.
Okay, talk to me about next steps. What could happen? And if you could wave a wand, what would happen?
If I could wave a wand, Foxconn would be able to land in a place that says, Missy, we're going to invest this much in capital expenditures. We're going to hire these many jobs. And we want to work with the tools that you have at WEDC to provide incentives. If we could land on an incentive contract that works for both the taxpayers and for Foxconn, that win-win that we were talking about, Steve, then, I want to go out and tout to people that we've got this incredible company that is building a foundation here in Wisconsin and use it to attract young people to stay here and to move here and to continue to help Southeast Wisconsin prosper.
Now, you like things to move quickly. If there is a new contract with Foxconn, could it be done in 6 months, 12? Do you have a hope for timeline?
I think that it's always better to move these things along. You're right. I do like to work quickly. I want to make sure that the investments and the jobs that Foxconn is hiring, because they are making investments and they are hiring, that they get credit for those. So the longer that we wait, the harder it is for WEDC to give credit to them for that. So, I think it behooves everybody to get back to the table, as hard as that might seem, right? This week, but maybe next week.
Okay. Just two more questions. The legislature set aside $212 million, which could have been the maximum payout for Foxconn tax credits. Here's my question. Are you recommending that some of that $212 million be set aside in case there is a new contract with Foxconn?
We just really, I haven't dove into conversations about the 212 million. Obviously the state budget is, in a challenging place due to the pandemic and the lack of revenue that's a result of that. So I'm doing what I can this week, and then maybe next week we'll, besides hopefully talking to Foxconn again, we will start to talk about that and what that means for the budget.
My last question is kind of tongue in cheek. Do you think it ever will be, as President Trump said, the eighth wonder of the world?
What I think is the eighth wonder of the world is the amazing community of businesses that we have in Wisconsin, whether it is small businesses or mom and pop businesses or farmers. Like, Wisconsin already is the eighth wonder of the world. So I think we're doing okay.
Wow. Okay. What a wonderful segue. You've been on the job a year.
Yeah.
Lessons learned about economic development. Go ahead. I know you could take an hour, but give me 1, 2, and 3. Lessons learned.
1, 2, and 3. You cannot have a successful economy if you don't have financial stability for the people of Wisconsin, if you don't have childcare, healthcare, good education, and a clean environment. Those are the 5 things that you need. You need good jobs. Absolutely. You need family sustaining jobs. You need jobs that are stable and that, hang in, year out. But you can't expect somebody to be a productive, continuously engaged person in the economy if they're worried about whether or not they have quality childcare, or if they don't know what's happening with the senior that they're responsible for and they're worried about that. If their own health is compromised, you can't expect them to be really engaged. If they're affected by a poor water, or if they just haven't gotten the education that they need. So economic development is all of these things together that creates economic well-being.
And how has the pandemic, which you didn't envision when you took this job, how has the pandemic threatened those foundations of Wisconsin's culture and economy? Severely?
Yeah.
Please.
I think that it has revealed where we had weak spots. And, certainly childcare is a weak spot for Wisconsin. It is for, many, many states. healthcare, especially when it comes to racial inequities, when you have access to, different access to healthcare or a lack of access to healthcare. So I think the pandemic it's almost like the mist has cleared. And we've been able to see like, oh, we thought we had, if we had talked in March, Steve, I would have said, yeah, we have a strong economy. We've got 3.2% unemployment. But the reality is the whole system needs to be working really well. And without that whole system working really well, we start, when it's stressed, we see those weak spots come through.
The federal government CARES package gave Governor Evers the ability to pretty much spend on his own $2 billion. Now, how much of that is your agency, WEDC, going to be able, or either has given out or will be given out? Is it 125 million or what's the total?
The total is going to probably land around close to about $200 million.
Okay.
So we were able to do a round of grants earlier in the summer for just over $65 million. We helped over 26,000 businesses around the state. We're just doing another $50 million round that'll help about 10,000 businesses. We're helping to distribute money right now to the lodging industry, to venues, and to movie theaters. So I think around $200 million of that CARES Act funding has been dedicated to helping businesses and helping economic development.
Are you most concerned? You mentioned the lodging industry. In a press release from Governor Evers, he cited a report that, is it 2/3 of hotels could close within a week? Is that a national stat or is that a Wisconsin stat, Missy?
I didn't stat, but...
And I want to correct myself. 2/3 could close within a year.
Within a year, yeah. I was going to say, that's quick.
Yeah, sorry.
I've heard statistics, Steve, that Washington, D.C.'s hotel capacity is at 7% right now. And typically it runs at about 97%. And so, it could be a national number or it could be a statewide number, but the lodging industry is incredibly affected. I haven't stayed in a hotel in the last 6 months, having been, someone who is in hotels almost nightly for the previous 6 months. And so business travel is really hurting. And then, of course, just, travel with your families and for pleasure is way down. I've heard statistics that it took 72 months to recover from 9/11 in the hotel and travel industry. So we can imagine that we're facing something like that in the coming years as the industry recovers.
The report your agency wrote on where different economic sectors are. Mm-hmm. Which sectors of Wisconsin's economy are you most worried about? You most worried about lodging, restaurants, tourism? Which are at the most, and you also talked about the forestry, the logging industry.
Yeah.
Which of those economic sectors most concerns you now?
I continue to be incredibly concerned about our small businesses, our restaurants, and, the tourism side of things, mostly because those employ a lot of people and a lot of low skilled workers. So as those workers come out of, if they're not rehired or they are let go because the restaurant's capacity are down, what's going to happen to those low-skilled workers? There's no place really for them to go, right? They can't go to another hotel or another restaurant because they're not hiring. I'm also concerned about the forest products industry and the paper industry, because I think out of all of our really strong industries, that one has been stressed for a number of years and maybe doesn't have quite the resiliency that we would see in manufacturing or biohealth or aerospace.
Knowing your passion for rural Wisconsin, has rural Wisconsin generally, speaking in generalizations, has rural Wisconsin generally survived a little bit better than our urban areas in the pandemic?
I think that it has. I think that the benefit of strong community and, having just a few businesses that need help. So, if there's just 2 or 3 restaurants that you need to get takeout from in order to support them, you can do that. That's what we're doing in our community and helping those ones that are really struggling. I have to say that I think the the divisive atmosphere that we are living in right now, the politics of the world, we're ready to get past that, especially in rural Wisconsin, because you don't have as much a chance to be anonymous with your beliefs and what you're thinking. And so, I definitely feel that there's a lot of people who are counting signs and things like that. And I think, the election can't come soon enough at this point.
Your agency is going to spend about $200 million to help Wisconsin businesses and different economic sectors. But the Federal Reserve just reported an 8% drop in Wisconsin's gross domestic product in the second quarter of this year. Mm-hmm. And that drop was $30 billion with a B dollars. So can $200 million, when we're looking at an 8% hit in the GDP, how much difference can it make?
Yeah, that 8% hit in the GDP came on top of $2 trillion worth of help from the federal government and about $2 billion worth for Wisconsin, right? So that stimulus is really what's been propping up the economy. And even with that, we had the 8% drop. So it's critically important that the federal government comes in with another stimulus package. We've been advocating for that like crazy. And, I'm confident that once we get through these politics, we'll be able to, the federal government will do that, but we need to get there, because the instability, from a business side of things, instability is the worst. You can, even a bad market, even, poor times, you can predict and you can work around that. But when things are so unstable, it's really hard to run your business.
Well, on that note, Washington now is talking about the next COVID aid package. And I think the Senate is at 1.8 trillion and the House is at 2.2. What, if you were testifying before Congress, what specific packages, what aid should be in the next COVID relief package from Washington to help Wisconsin? Who should it help?
I think that it's critically important to help the state and local governments. Okay. The state, having learned in the last year how much the state does and where the state is helping throughout all of our communities, it's critically important that the state be able to continue those services. I also think that there needs to be a package that really helps these restaurants. We're involved in helping small businesses right now, but there's a gap between, a business that has $1 million or less in revenue, which are the ones that we're working with right now, and, $1 million to $5 million in annual revenue. They employ a lot of people and they need help. And it's just beyond our resources to be able to really meaningfully help those businesses.
Now, when you talk about meaningful help, are you speaking about the 5% limit on grants under the We're All In program?
I'm talking about that we have a limit on our We're All In grants of your business has to be $1 million or less in annual revenue.
Yep.
And many restaurants, that are a little bit larger, have much more revenue than that. And so we're not able to help them. The PPP program really helped a lot of those businesses. And so something like PPP again would be, I think, beneficial to those businesses, maybe without the stress and without the confusion. But overall, that was, a program that I think, for building the plane while we were flying it, I think that program worked well.
Just two final questions. What's your worry if there's no additional federal aid package to deal with COVID for all these businesses and sectors that you've been dealing with for a year? What's your worry?
Well, my biggest worry right now is that we're not going to get the virus under control. So full stop, we have to get the virus under control. Otherwise, no amount of stimulus is going to help, because we're just going to continue to be in a doldrum recession moment where people aren't going outside, they're not dining, they're not moving around, schools are closing. Like all of that is hindering our ability to recover. So I'm very concerned about that. The second piece is, winter is typically a quieter time in Wisconsin for these businesses. And we're hearing a lot from businesses that are like, look, I made it through the last 6 months. I can't make it through another 6 months unless I have some kind of a stimulus or something that helps me here, because people have used up their savings, their family savings. And so I'm very concerned that those businesses are just not going to make it through winter.
And then last question, why 1 year later do you still love your job? in the face of all these challenges?
I wish that we weren't facing all of these challenges, but as much as I can help Wisconsin, as much as I can sit in my seat and be an advocate for trying to make things better and trying to find solutions, I'm thrilled to be here. And, I don't know if fun is the right word, but challenge is something I live for. So there's definitely been plenty of challenges.
Missy Hughes, CEO of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, who's supposed to be on her vacation. Thank you. Thank you very much for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you, Steve. You take care.
Stay safe, Missy. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
This program is a production of WisconsinEye, an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit media network with a mission to inform, educate, and engage the citizens of Wisconsin. WisconsinEye is the nation's first and only independently funded state civic broadcast network, providing gavel-to-gavel access to government proceedings and events at the state capitol.